the power of a sales process. Now, you know, we've all been in this industry for a long time, and we kind of know what a process is. A process is really things we do every day. When we get out of bed, when we make our bed, when we brush our teeth, anything we do is a process. So I gave you 2 forms or 2 pieces of paper. The first one I want you to look at is the one with a bunch of numbers on it. All right? So this is a quick little exercise that I want to do. And this is what I'm going to do. When I say go, I want you to look at that sheet of paper that's in front of you, just the top one first. And I want you to go through the numbers from 1 through 100. There's 100 numbers on there. I'm gonna give you 1 minute to do this exercise. And I want you to get as many numbers as you can in sequence from 1 through 100, starting with number 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So I'm about to say go. Let me know when you got your pens in your hand and you're ready. So you gotta be prepared. And I want you to X out the numbers on that sheet with your
Are we
pen.
tracing it?
So we're
Like
just
just
marking
1, 2, 3,
1,
4,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on.
I'm dyslexic.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
That's okay.
You just scratch it out.
All right, and scratch it out. Go.
1, 2, 3,
Where?
4.
I don't think there's a 2 on here. Oh my God.
Keep going. Just exit out.
Where am I? Where am I? 6.
See?
Where am I? 6, 7, 8, shit. Shit, I'm on 6. Yeah.
15 seconds left, y'all.
God damn.
No pressure.
Hmm.
6.
2, 1. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Now I don't want no cheating because y'all don't know what's behind it. All right. Now who all participated? Raise your hands. Everybody that participated. All right. I'm gonna start with you, Cody, and we're gonna round off, and you're gonna tell me your numbers. All right, Cody.
16.
So how many did you get 1 through 100?
16.
16? Next, Lance.
17.
Did you do it, Brent?
15.
Derek?
12.
Michael?
21.
Shannon?
14.
Lauren, did you participate? Fred?
15.
Terrell?
15.
Let's go back to Chris.
12.
Kenny?
18.
18. Steve?
I think
All right, started late though. Okay, I got you. Roach?
12.
LT?
14.
14. All right. So now, I'm gonna give you another minute. I want you to flip the page over. Now here's the difference. I want you to do the same thing that we just did. However, this time, I want you to start in the top left-hand box. It's broke down into 4 squares on the second sheet of paper. You notice there's a line, there's 4 different sections. I want you to start in the top left section and go clockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I want you to go clockwise. I'm gonna give you the same minute to repeat it now. Anybody need me to repeat the instructions one more time?
Go clockwise.
As your clock starts at the top of 12, you move what? To the right.
Mm.
You always move to the right as the clock come back around to make its full circle. So start at the top left. That's your 12 o'clock. And I want you to move to the right like a clock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on.
But we get the switch box going.
Shift boxes every time. When you start in number 1, you're in the left box. Number 2, you're in the right box. Number 3, you're in the bottom right box. Number 4, you're in the bottom left box. Is that enough direction to say where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
All right. All right, go. Got 10 seconds. 5. Stop. All right. So Cody, we started with you last time, right? How many numbers did you do this time?
15 again.
15. You stayed consistent. Lance?
33.
33. You increased. Brent?
38.
Wow. DJ?
24.
How much?
24.
24.
25.
25. You went up.
26.
26. You went up. Fred?
22.
22. Then we jump back there to Chris.
26.
26. Kenny?
20.
20. Oh,
I think you
I
missed.
skipped Terrell.
Yeah.
Terrell, how many did you do?
25.
He was at 15 the
So
time.
that's 25, 22, 26. Now Steve.
I'm slow, I got 10.
No, you don't. Roach,
20.
LT,
18.
18. All right. Now there was a method to my madness right there, y'all. Now what I want you to see is the first time I just handed you a bunch of numbers. I said you got a minute to go at it. And you went at it and this is what you did. The second time, I specifically told you which direction to go. I said, here's the process. And these are your new numbers. You almost double production. Well, what's the purpose about this meeting? The purpose of this meeting is the power of a process. The reason why we have processes is not to make our jobs hard. It's actually to make it easier. Our problem is the fear of the unknown when we have to do a new process because we're not used to it. So I want you to watch this video and then I'll sum up what I got and then we'll go from there.
Hi, this is Victor Antonio with another sales training moment. And today I want to talk to you about a book I read called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Now, in this book, Charles Duhigg tries to explain how habits are formed. And he talks about, one, there's always a cue. We see something, as soon as we see something, we follow a routine. Once we follow that routine, there's a reward at the end of that routine. And then the cycle continues. Let me give you an example, he gave in the book. And then I'm going to tie it back to sales because this is key. You're going to love this. Now, they did an experiment with a mouse, right? They put a mouse and they want the mouse to go into the maze and find a piece of chocolate here to the left. Now, what they do is you'll hear a clicking sound right here. The mouse hears a click. Mouse hears a click. That's the cue. And all of a sudden, this little gate opens up. The mouse will then proceed down the maze, maybe go back and forth a few times, back and forth a few times, and finally it figures it out, right? And so what they did is they monitored the brain activity of the mouse during that process at the beginning. And what they found is high levels of activity. As you can see right here, it's just a lot of activity going on. You'll see a peak here and a peak here because this was the click, right, at the gate. And this right here was when they found the chocolate, right? On the chocolate, that was the reward. So, click, a lot of activity, trying to find it, and then the reward when they found the what? Chocolate, right? Now, after 100 times doing this experiment with the same mouse, what they found out is that the mouse has figured it out. After a while, it figures it out. It knows to go down, make a left, there's the chocolate. But then when they monitored the brain activity, here's what was interesting. There was a peak at the beginning, the click, right, the cue, gate opens, but then the brain activity just dropped. And then when it found the chocolate, the brain activity spiked again. And what Charles Duhigg was trying to tell us here is that Right here, when something starts new for the first time, there's a lot of brain activity going on. Listen carefully what I just said. When you're learning something for the first time, there's a lot of brain activity. When the mouse was trying to find the chocolate, it really didn't understand its environment, didn't know what to do. So there's a lot of brain activity. But once it figured it out to go down the path, go left, there's the chocolate, the brain activity died. Why? According to Charles Duhigg, it became a habit. And when it became a habit, at this point, it was all what? At a subconscious level or unconscious level. It didn't really have to think about it. For example, you ever get in your car and then drive to work, and let's say it's a 45-minute drive, and all you remember is getting in the car, turning it on, click. But then next thing you know, you're there, and you're like, oh, how did I get here? Because you weren't what? Really thinking about it, because it had become a habit. When you first started driving, you got in the car, and there was a lot of brain activity going on. And then when you got there, boom, I'm at my destination, there's my reward. But once you got used to driving, you got in the car, and then everything was at a subconscious level, almost like autopilot, and then click, the reward is when you got there. Now this is interesting from a sales perspective. Charles Duhigg doesn't tie it in, but I think there's a tie-in here. Here it is. When we're learning a sales process for the first time, it becomes very clunky, very clumsy, and there's a lot of brain activity because there are a lot of mechanics that we have to take care of, right? A lot of things we have to think about in order to do the sales presentation right, in order to say certain things right, in order to do the demo right. In other words, in order to follow a process, there's a lot of activity going on up here, right? So we really have to think about it. But what happens when you become very good at the sales process? Maybe you become very good at presenting. You know what to say, when to say it, how to say it, when to position something, when to ask a question, when to interact with the audience. You get the idea. Once you become very good at it, what then happens is you start the presentation, but your brain activity now is almost on what? Autopilot. Now, here's what's interesting. If you look at the area, getting a little mathematical and engineering like here, this right here now becomes what? Almost like extra microprocessing capacity in your brain. Now this is fascinating to me because when you're first starting out, if you look at the area under here, there's not a lot of extra capacity to work with because you're so focused on the task. This is why new people have a hard time improvising, thinking on their feet. But what happens is when the process becomes a habit, the presentation becomes a habit, you know the product so well, what then happens is that it becomes what? At a subconscious level, very easy to present, which means now you have all this extra brain processing capacity to be able to answer questions, maybe read the crowd better, maybe adjust your presentation as you're going through it, because you're able to think about things while you're doing the presentation. So this is my case for saying to you, you have to have a sales process. And at the beginning, it's going to feel very clumsy because you're mechanically thinking about everything you're doing. But trust me, once you become very good at it, it'll become a habit. And then all this extra mental space up here that you have right here will be used to actually adjusting the presentation and maybe looking at your audience, asking questions, and engaging them. And this is why the best of the best, when you look at the best salespeople today, they know their product so well, they know the process so well that they're able to engage and cognitively, so to speak, they're able to think about what they're thinking and saying and be able to read the crowd or the audience better. So by having a process, all I'm trying to show here is, at first it's difficult, but once it becomes a habit, you become very good at it, then all of a sudden you become more effective because you're able to think on your feet. And this is what the best of the best do when you really think about it. I hope this helps. Again, this comes from the book, The Power Habit by...
All right. So I show this for the reason of the next piece of paper that's in front of me. Is the power of process. And as we grow and as we move and as we do things differently, there's going to be a lot of changes in processes, in the way we look at and do things. Look at Brent. You know, for the last 2 months, Brent, we were what? Getting rid of cars, getting into profit time, putting pods out, rushing cars through the service department to get through 10 days. That's a lot of processes. Think about what he's been going through to manage that and start that out. But now, you know, it gets a little easier, doesn't it, Brent? Yep. Now we have a daily routine. We have a process. We know where they are. We know what we're doing. And now Daryl has a process where it's not 20 days before they get out. But those things doesn't happen until we get uncomfortable. So the power of a process, and the process is a system, is a sequence of steps working towards a defined result or outcome. So whatever you want, now we're gonna put processes to. So if you look down this list, I'm not gonna go through the list. Is as I was sitting at home and I was thinking about processes is everything we do, you'll just see a list of things that I wrote in my mind as processes and things that we have to do when it comes to the sales process and service process, and you think of it. And so I leave you guys with this challenge right here. You know, moving forward, we're gonna stay focused on processes. Processes is gonna be a bit of everything we do. You know, we're gonna have to pick one. There's a lot, but we're gonna pick one. And as a team, we're gonna go through processes together. Now, I know me and Lauren talked already, so the first one is gonna be on us. I'm sorry, y'all. We'll pick one from y'all moving forward. But the one that's on our hearts right now is my rewards, okay? So, as a team, this is our process. 100% of the time, everybody that buys a car from us must, if it's a GM product, set up my rewards. There is no give in that. We can communicate back and forth on how to make it better as a team, but understand that the caveat is there is no give on that. So the first start in the process is that right there, my rewards. So we're gonna spend this week really focusing on that. And I know Lauren has already implemented the exit interview to start on that. Guys, the management team, we're gonna really hold you accountable to that. You know, we want that exit interview. None of us are too busy. We gotta make sure that it's done. And we're gonna start following up that it's being done. And then once we get out of that, guess what? That becomes a habit and we get to move on to something else. So there's a bunch of things coming. And I thank y'all for this morning. And I just want to stop there because we don't need to get overwhelmed. We need to focus on closing out and finishing out the month, guys. Great months that start this month. And thank you for your time.